Coming to a YouTube channel near you.
Hello everybody, and welcome to Spiritual Street Talk with Althea Jacob. I'm Althea, and I am delighted that you are joining us for this episode. And tonight, the theme that I want to talk about are things that might stretch the way that we think about things or blow your mind with some concepts if you hadn't thought of them before. I want to do a deep dive on some metaphysical and quantum reality types of information, kind of thinking a little bit more, stretching, like how do we think about spirituality versus religion? Do we think a lot about our soul's purpose and the legacy we're going to leave? And just how do we get through the week and navigate in this day-to-day world when we have this spiritual consciousness and this direction leading us one way, but then there's all this practical stuff that we have to deal with on the other. So that's kind of what I have in store. But as most of you know, I like to start with a little bit of thanks and gratitude to Chris Grizzly, who is the producer of the show, and his partner, Mary. If it wasn't for them and all of our great support on the Paranormal Network, on the Bigfoot Network, we as the host wouldn't be out here able to share information with y'all and answer your questions. And hi, Kay. And if you are on tuning in live, please feel free to say hi in the chat. And if you have any questions that pop up into your mind, or if there's any specific topics that you want to make sure I cover, please do ask them. I ask if there's a question, put it in caps so it really jumps out at me so I can share it with everybody who's watching or listening, and then see what we can do with that. So for those of you who are new to the show, my normal format is we talk a little bit about what's happened during the week. Then I share some angel cards and oracle cards and tarot cards with messages from spirit for things that should hopefully ring true to your heart and make sense to your mind and feel right to your gut. Things that should kind of go, yeah, that makes some sense, or wow, that's the perfect time for me to be hearing that particular message. Then after we're done those messages, I'll go through some of the talking points or teaching points of the topics that I had planned. But as always, this is your hour. So if you are live and you have questions and that takes us off topic that I wanted to teach, that is totally cool with me, because street talk or spiritual street talk should be, what's the down low on things you want to know? What's on your mind and heart? What are the things that keep you up at night or help keep you going? And so those are the things I want to make sure we cover, whether you're listening live or whether you're tuning in a week or a month from now or a year from now. I always love to hear from you. All my contact information is down below. My website is just my name, altheajacob.com. I invite you to go there and check out the things that I do, because it is my delight and joy to be of service and to help y'all. All right, so let's get to this week. So this week was a very interesting one. Shortly after we had done the show actually, I do apologize. We were not on last week. We just had a little bit of some technical difficulties and some miscommunication. So I do apologize. So for those of you who tried to tune in and was like, where's Althea? I do apologize for that. As you know, I'm trying to learn the behind the scenes stuff of how to run all this as well, to free up Chris and Mary for bigger and better things that they're doing with promoting other shows and doing other things for us. And there is another show in the works with me that's going to be a morning show called Grace and the Grind. And that's going to be on Monday mornings. And we're still working out all the logistics on that. So stay tuned for that. But anyway, so during the weekend, somebody I know called me up in a panic, and they said, oh my God, I lost this bracelet of mine, a gold bracelet that had some gemstones in it. And it's what's known as a mother's bracelet, because each of the gemstones represents one of her children. And she was given this bracelet by her new daughter-in-law, who updated the bracelet with a gemstone for her and claiming her as her mom, right? So it's very significantly meaningful bracelet. And she had not taken it off since the wedding last year. And hi, Michelle. And so she had gone for a walk and all of a sudden realized the bracelet was missing. So they had torn the house apart. They retraced all her steps on the walk where she had gone, and no luck. So of course she was all upset. She's like, is there any way you can help? Can you tune in and see what's what? And that particular day, I had been doing a lot of gardening, and I didn't have on any jewelry. And so I didn't have a necklace that I could use as a pendulum. And I also didn't have a pendulum handy. I was downstairs instead of up in my office. And I was just too tired to go up, quite frankly. And so I'm like, I wonder what I could use as a pendulum. And all of a sudden I said, oh, there's a pair of Tinshaw sitting here. And so one of the things that I had taught y'all a while back about using pendulums is that basically you can use anything that swings, right? So whether it's a washer on a string, your necklace, or a proper pendulum. Do I have a proper pendulum here? I might. She says, she's looking on the pile of stuff here. Well, maybe not. I never know sometimes what I have where. But anyway, so I took the Tinshaw. And these are kind of cool. They're Tibetan Tinshaw. And for those of you who don't know, they are sort of like the equivalent of holy water in the Christian churches. For a lot of the Eastern religions, this is sort of like a blessing of sound. So like where holy water will bless and clear a space, the sound that these guys make does the same thing. So anyway, I grabbed one of these and I said, okay, show me a yes. And so it started to move. And then I said, show me a no. And it started to move. And so I asked questions like, is the bracelet in the house? And it said, no. And then I said, okay, is it on the walking path? No. Did somebody else pick it up and find it? No. Is it on the property in their garden somewhere? Yes. Oh, all right. That's good news. So I told my friend, hey, good news. I get that it's in there. And in my mind's eye, I kind of see it on the ground under a plant. So it's not really very visible, but it's there somewhere. But what I told her to do is I said, why don't you do this? Why don't you take a minute and open up and ask your guidance, specifically the mother and spirit of her new daughter-in-law, to help, and ask her where it is, and to impress upon your mind where that is, and trust the very first thing that you get, that's going to be the right answer. And so she said she would try that, because she's been trying to open up and learn how to listen to the voice of spirit a little bit more. So I thought, oh, here's a great opportunity, that could have pretty instant results. So she hangs up the phone, and about 2 minutes later, she calls me back. She's like, oh my God, I found it. And she said, her daughter-in-law's mom was right. She said she had sat down, she had cleared her mind, and she all of a sudden heard the words vegetable patch. And so she went to the vegetable patch, and sure enough, she moved things around and she found it there on the ground. And so it was a double win, right? It was win-win for all of us, right? She found the bracelet that was so meaningful to her. And it also was an opportunity for me to play with a tool and see, like, oh yeah, I tuned in, I got the right information. But more importantly, it was an opportunity for her to realize that she can do it too. And that's the whole point of the show, actually, if you think about it. It's for me to encourage you all to have curiosity, to be playful, to try things that maybe you wouldn't have thought of otherwise, and to realize that having spiritual gifts is part of our human nature. It is our birthright. It is our heritage. It is a human potential that we have, just like music or any other artistic gift. Our spiritual gifts are ones that we can refine and use and be playful and see, well, what ones do we like, and which ones do we have an aptitude for, and which ones can we say, oh yeah, you know what, I actually heard something there, and I was able to connect with spirit. Oh, so maybe that's a channel that's open for me that I can play with and experiment with and see what else can happen. So that was some really good news to report. On the flip side, I've been dealing with a lot of pain. I was doing way too much gardening, and I pulled something in my back and shoulder. And I will tell you that it is hard to maintain a very happy outlook when you're not sleeping well and you're in pain. So it's been challenging me on a lot of different levels. Hey, Kay. And yeah, as far as tuning into our gifts, yeah, it's really important that we encourage each other and, again, have that playful, joyful spirit. Another thing that happened this week, there was a woman that had been a client of mine who said she really wanted to learn how to open up to spirit. And we spent a little time, and I was just encouraging her. I said, it says in scriptures, in order to enter the kingdom of heaven, we need to be like a little child. And I think the point that gets lost there, it's not so much just the innocence of the child. It's the playfulness of the child. It's the willingness to be in the moment. Things that have happened in the past and things that are maybe happening in the future are typically not on a child's radar. They're in the moment. They're quick to forgive and forget. They share their toys, and they're almost willing to give anything a try, right? You say, hey, you want to try this? Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. Right. So that sense of playfulness and curiosity and sharing our gifts and sharing our toys and not putting a lot of pressure on ourselves, that's one of the best ways to start. And I told this client who's becoming a friend and is a friend now, actually, that, when you're first starting out and realizing like there is something more out there, having that playfulness, taking the pressure off is really the best way to approach it. Just have a sense of curiosity. I wonder what'll happen if I start journaling and open up to spirit and say, what's the most important thing I need to know right now, and see what pops into my mind. There's always time for judging and analysis and critical thinking later. But when you're in that moment, just allow it to go. Just allow it to flow. And then later on, they can look back and see like, oh, that seems like that was my own words, or, oh, wow, that's really different. I don't usually use that vocabulary, or, wow, there was whole thoughts that popped in that was not things that were on my radar before. And that really seems like it was a gift from spirit, and there is no judgment too. There's really no good or bad, with kids when they're playing cops and robbers or cowboys and Indians, or, whatever the game is. It doesn't matter if you're on the good side or the bad side, right? It's sort of like they're just role playing. They're just having fun with it. It just all is. There is no good or bad. There is no right or wrong necessarily, right? They make up the rules as they go along in a way, which is also a great teacher when it comes to manifesting, right? It's like, do they judge it or think they shouldn't have it? No, I'm the queen. I'm the princess. I'm Wonder Woman. I'm an Amazon warrior, right? Whatever it is, right? They can put on whatever role they want. And that too is part of the lesson, I think, in that, to enter in the kingdom of heaven. Well, what's the kingdom of heaven? It's the idealized perfection that we want to live in. It's everything that we want and need, that we want to manifest, that we can do. Hey, Nikki, welcome. As we go forward. So anyway, I was, encouraging her. And one of the things I had encouraged her to do was start a dream journal. Because if you don't know where to start, dream journals are one of the easiest things. Before you go to bed at night, you sit down and you kind of program for yourself, okay, I'm going to remember my dreams. And whether I wake up in the middle of the night to pee, or whether it's normal time in the morning or whatever, I'm going to check in real quick and jot down thoughts and keep a notebook by my bed, anything that comes to mind as far as dreams. And I'm going to do that night after night, just to kind of build the momentum and show my little girl within and all of spirit that I am serious. I want to learn to communicate better, and I'm open, and I'm going to start paying attention in my dreams, because in my dreams, that's one of the most unfiltered times that we have. And so she actually emailed me and she said, oh my gosh, I actually started getting something in the dreams, like right away. So it was really encouraging. So that was a fun thing that happened this week. So what I'd like to do now is kind of shift into the messages from spirit that will be for everybody. And the first angel card that I got was Archangel Uriel. So if you know anything about the archangels, they kind of have a theme or a major message that is linked with each one. And Uriel is one of the, I'll call him more the intellectual teacher types. He works on the ruby ray, which is a combination of purple and gold. And it's the ray of wisdom and spirituality. And so when we get that angel coming to us, what he's bringing is serenity, love, tranquility, peace, and asking us to help spread those to other people as well. When it says here, when we connect with Archangel Uriel, we aspire to oneness with all humanity. This is a state of high grace, which will bring us a sense of freedom and joy. And we can visualize that sense of purple and gold. And that's kind of fun because I grabbed this little scarf thingy today, and it has a lot of purple with little gold flecky things in it. So somehow I must have known it was coming, which is always fun. And then the next card that I chose, this is from the Mandala Oracle deck, and it's the card of ancestral spirits. And this says, understanding and assistance can come to us from our connection to the wisdom of our ancestors. Reach out and claim it. And that leads us to the angel card of joy. So as we're claiming, we're entering this intention, this higher vibration of love and oneness and that purple and golden kind of ray. And we're turning to our ancestors and we're understanding what is our purpose, what is our joy. It actually brings us to joy, right? It brings us to joy, which is the highest energy of all. It's the magical sense that everything and anything is possible. Joy springs from appreciating the gifts that we have within each moment. And joy allows us to attract and create our present and our future moments at their highest possible levels. Hey, Virgil, welcome. So when I look at those three together, it's a nice flow. And then I picked some tarot cards for tonight. And the first was the King of Rods. And the King of Rods is our visionary. It's somebody that is in tune with cycles of nature, cycles of self, really strong sense of intuition. And when I use the words intuition, what I mean here is the coherence between our mind, our heart, and our gut. We want our intelligence, our feelings, and our knowings to be in a partnership that helps us, this spiritual team that informs us which way we should be going in our life, what's good for us, what's not. The next card that we have here is Justice. Justice upside down is interesting because when the second card in the spread is usually about what's happening now. And so there is a feeling out there in the world that things are kind of upside down, that there's a lot of challenges. There's still a lot of contention. There's still all kinds of questions about what in the world is going on. It seems like every time we turn around, there's something else that's like, what? Just making us go a little crazy. And then, there's all these natural disasters and interesting, I won't say forebodings, but like there's a lot of volcanoes that are starting to spew these days. Mount Etna just went off again. Kilauea has been having all this fountaining going on. And there was even this, I think it was a hot water eruption in Yellowstone Park, that they had to close a section of it, because it was potentially dangerous. And you're like, Mother Nature's kind of going, hello, pay attention, guys. Something's going on here. So there's definitely a feeling that something's out of balance. And the last card gives us a real clue as to what's going on and what we need to do about it. So the Seven of Cups is a card of there's way too much on our plates. There's way too much on our minds. So even if a lot of it is good things and things that are keeping us busy, it's very essential for us to take the time to figure out what things we need to say no or not now to in order to say yes to the things that are most important, most productive, most beneficial, most in alignment with our soul's purpose and helping us get closer to the people that we're becoming, but we just aren't yet, right? We're all trying to become the best possible version of ourselves, right? We're working on all the different parts of us that will help us to shine our light brightly, share our love more intently, be kinder, nicer, people who are easily do the right thing all the time and are able to manifest beauty and love and prosperity and peace in our lives and share that with those that we love and care about, right? That's kind of like the collective vision we have that we're holding, right? But if we are so overwhelmed and so busy and running from here to there to here to there, and like we just feel like a scattered mess, it's really hard to start to see the momentum. And what this is reminding us is a lot of the craziness and the drama and trauma happening in the world is stealing our attention away from the balance that's possible in our life. And so one of the things I'm going to ask you to think about is when you are listening to the news or the weather or anything, the people talking outside, right? Try really hard not to get sucked into the drama and trauma and own it as your own. If there is truly something that's happening that's upsetting to you, that you have some ability to influence or control, then for all, for all you can do, go for it, right? Absolutely go for it. But if it's something that you truly don't have control over, really don't have an ability to influence, and the best you can do is like, okay, well, if that's worst case scenario, I better get busy preparing. Do the proactive things you can do to prepare so that you can at least have peace of mind. Well, if that worst case thing happens, at least I know I've done the best I can to get things ready for me and my family and the people I care about, right? So if it's something that's more like, wow, this is just the churn, this is the distraction, this is the rumbling and tumbling and angst and rocking the boat that sometimes has to happen to get people to wake up to like, well, what do you really want and need? Like, when everything's going smooth and, things are happening and we're like, well, that's okay. And this is fine. And a lot of times we don't really take a look at it. And it's through the disruptors and the disruptions and the unexpected, like what? Just what happened here? What's this? Those are the things that kind of wake us up out of the sleepwalking mode that many of us are in our life. Even it's ironic. We're sleepwalking, but we're also running around at, Mach 5 with our hair on fire, trying to get all this stuff done. Right. So, but a lot of it's like on autopilot. It's like, go here, do this, go here, do this, go here, do this. Time out. Let's take a minute. Let's not get sucked into even more drama, trauma, and craziness. Let's do what we can to cultivate a sense of balance and peace. Now, meditation is great. I love meditation when we can do it. I'm also one of those people that have a very active mind. So I like to assign my intellect something to do. Because if you tell me sit here and think of nothing, that is impossible for me. It's like, that's just not how my brain is wired, right? Once in a blue moon, with the aid of like the HemiSync technology from the Monroe Institute, or the spatial, what did they have to stand? Spatial audio modification tools they have. They have different ways to help get your brain in a coherence and get you into states using technology and science. I've had times where, oh, wow, I just realized like I wasn't thinking for that 15 minutes. Wow, what a concept. Very novel for me. But putting our mind to work and assigning it, like be the note taker, be the analyst later, look for the opportunities, be on the lookout for what spirit is coming with information for us, or what guide is there for us that has a message that we need to share. So it's okay to give ourselves. Okay, Heidi, yeah, I just pulled a whole bunch of cards for us. But I will do one other thing. I'll pull a brand new one then. Let's see. Let's pull one from the tarot deck since you requested that. And the one that I got for you there, my friend, is the Lovers. And the Lovers is both a card that has to do with the actual love relationships in our life, but it's not necessarily just the intimate love relationship. So it's not just the husband and wife. This can be the love that's shared between friends, sisters, people that are brothers and sisters, even in a church or a community. And so this card is reminding us to do what we can to see everybody through the eyes of love and interact with everybody, even if they're a stranger on the street. Say, okay, well, what if this is a cousin that I loved, or a grandparent I loved, or a child that I loved? How would I look at what their behaviors, words, actions impact whatever they're doing is affecting me? How would that be different? How would I interact with them? How would I think about them? How would I respond to them? What would I want to be able to do to help them or for them? So having that sense of love and unity is definitely one of the themes for tonight. And then the other thing I did is I cracked open my book. And for those of you that are new, last year I published this book, A Portal to Potential, The Muse of Monroe. And in it, there are insights that are all channeled from spirit. I felt like I was taking dictation from spirit and writing things down as fast as I could. And it's meant to encourage and empower us as we're on our path to figure out what is our purpose in life and how can we become the best possible versions of ourselves, as well as how can we have a little bit more sense of meaning, joy, purpose, peace, and really step into the fullest measure of our creation. And there's uplifting passages in it. There's some, I would call them poems, but they're more like uplifting spiritual writings. There's practical advice section. There's questions to ponder. And one of the benefits that you have of reading or listening to anything that's channeled, like this book, or going and seeing visionary art in a gallery or listening to channeled music, is that when you're listening to anything that's channeled, it allows you, like a little salmon going upstream, to back filter all the way up to the source and get what you need from the source out of it, regardless of the content. Because energy and information are two sides of the same coin, so to speak. And so you can ride the energy wave that was channeled to get you the information that you need or access different energy that you need as well. So the section that when I crack the book open, I like to do it sort of as a spiritual fortune cookie and said, what should I share tonight? It came to a passage called Singularity. So I'm going to read that to you right now. What is singularity more than oneness with yourself? It is a reunion of parts to reconstitute your whole. A moment in time, forever now. A place in eternity, precisely here. The observable point collapses the waveform and makes sense of the mystery and magic of you, of us, of all, expressing as the many until we are together as one once more. I like sharing these. And by the way, this is available on Amazon for $10, and all proceeds go to the Monroe Institute Scholarship Fund. I like sharing these because it was channeled. It wasn't conscious thinking on my part. And so when I read back, I go, oh, wow, that's cool. Or, oh, that was profound. Or, wow, I wonder if somebody else would resonate with that as much as I would. And when I started sharing the writings before it became the book, people were like, wow, that's really cool. Wow, that's really interesting. And so they were like, oh, can I have a copy? Or, oh, can you share that? And so for me, there's something joyful about it, but also just showing the example of this stuff. I didn't make this up. It came through me. And I just had the wherewithal to know how to write it down. Kind of like the, what do you call those people? Transcriptionist, right? They're writing it down as fast as it comes, and then I just put it in a format that I thought would be aesthetically pleasing to share with other people, because I think it's so important for us to all figure out what is our purpose and how can we have more joy in our life, and what is the point of all this. And there's a whole bunch of those kind of questions in there that when you ponder or think about it, you're like, oh, okay. And I just love the energy that I feel when I reconnect with that source, whatever that benevolent source was that came through at that time. Okay. So the fact that was singularity was really interesting, also cracking open to that, because one of the things I wanted to talk about tonight a little bit was the nature of reality. Yeah, I know, a light concept, right? So in quantum physics, in quantum reality, right? There's so many theories out there. There's so many different ways. Whoops, what happened here? Oh, there we go. Sorry about that. There's so many different ways of thinking about reality. And one of the first things I always like to do is put kind of a disclaimer out there. We are finite minds trying to understand the infinite and trying to make sense of our reality in a lot of ways, when it's kind of like the metaphorical, we got one hand tied behind our back, because we are spirits, we are spirit in our nature that have come to this side of the veil to incorporate into human bodies, to live in this physical world, to have our interactions, to have the lessons, and grow in whatever ways our soul wanted. There's lots of philosophies out there about what it is, and depending on religions, how you were raised, or philosophies that you were brought up with, there's all kinds of opinions that are out there of, well, what is the nature of this reality? And so what I want to do is just share a little bit of my take on it after working with spirit professional. I've known about spirit since I was 7, and I'm going to be 63 next week. And so I've worked professionally utilizing my spiritual gifts since I was about 18. So again, a very long-term relationship. So I've thought about this a lot and pondered it, and have spirit and guides and angels and loved ones in spirit communicate with me. And I want to share the first little metaphor that came to me when I asked spirit. I said, well, how do I think about what's on the other side of the veil? because in a lot of ways, I feel like the veil parts and we're on a trampoline, jumping up and peeking over the fence and getting a quick little view of what's going on and trying to extrapolate that out and say, well, that's what eternity's all about, or that's what it's like in the non-physical world. And I'm not quite sure that that's, that's accurate. It's like, okay, if I was on a trampoline and I looked and jumped over and I'm peeking into the zoo and I'm looking at the giraffe enclosure, okay, I could tell you all about the giraffes maybe, but you'd know nothing about the lions or the sea otters or the polar bears or, the whole rest of the zoo is out there and I know nothing about it because all I'm seeing is that little glimpse, right? So I asked Spirit, I said, can you help me understand a little bit about what it's like for us on the other side of the veil? And I had this image of a fishbowl with a little goldfish pop up into my mind's eye. And I had the sense and heard that just like the goldfish would have no concept or be able to conceptualize the idea of ocean, if we were able to try to explain it to the goldfish in ways that goldfish understand things, it wouldn't be able to, because its entire existence was in this little fishbowl. And, it may have toys and it might have company and it gets food, in different ways, but it would have no way to understand if you said, well, out in the ocean, there are tides and there are currents and there's other big fish and there's coral and there's this and this and this and that. It would have it'd be like, what are you talking about? I'm a goldfish in a bowl. I don't know. I don't understand this, right? So just like that goldfish would not be able to understand the concept of ocean, we, from this perspective of our souls in the physical bodies on this side of the veil, we cannot conceive of the infinity and the freedoms that would be possible when we're back in the spiritual world. But unlike the goldfish that would find itself in a world of hurt, if all of a sudden somebody dumped that goldfish bowl in the ocean, that little goldfish is going to be in big trouble, right? It's going to be like, first of all, where's my dinner, right? There's nobody sprinkling the food over, right? And in fact, it's going to be like, I might be somebody else's dinner because there's a lot bigger fish out here than me. And what is this current? And where do I sleep? And where's my little castle to, shelter in at night? So the poor little guy would be really in a lot of trouble. But unlike that goldfish, who would be in trouble if he's in the ocean, when we return to spirit, it is a beautiful homecoming, reunion, an expansion of consciousness, an integration of the learnings. And it is a beautiful process that we shouldn't have any fear about. We just can't comprehend it from this side of the veil. And so I was like, oh, okay, I like that little fishbowl analogy. So I thought I would share that with y'all. But so if we are all coming from a source of light, so let's say we take the Christian model to start with and say, okay, so there is a God, a heavenly Father who created us all. We're all his sons and daughters. And we have come here to experience the physical plane and to have the adventures and learn the lessons. And I like to think of it as gathering threads of a tapestry. And whether you believe in past lives that we keep coming back for many of them as not, or, until we get it right, or until we've had as many adventures as we want. It's like, okay, you go, we got the admission ticket to Disneyland. How many rides do you want to go on? And, there's some people that they pick their 2 or 3 favorites. They're good. Others want to hit every single ride in the park. Others want to hit every ride plus do their favorites multiple times, right? So I kind of look at lives and incarnations that way. It's like you keep coming back as much as you want to or need to until you feel like, I'm good. I'm complete. I got what I need. And then you go back to whatever this source is and you integrate. Or you go back to heaven and you reunite with your friends and your family and your loved ones. In some of the Eastern traditions, there's more of a sense of there's a source or a creator of some sort, of some source that's there. And that creator wanted to expand and know more of itself. And so we are all expressions, unique differentiations of that oneness. that have come down here to experience what's possible and then kind of like regroup later on and continue to expand through the universe, through time and space, and in this sense of a progression and expansion of becoming more and more and more of whatever's possible. And again, not wait for us to figure out exactly what that is until we get there. And there's some people, that say, well, maybe there's nothing. Well, I think science is helping us realize that there can't be nothing, because you can't get something from nothing. And there's also some principles that matter cannot be created or destroyed. And we're part of that spiritual essence and matter. So that's kind of cool. I like the part of quantum theory that talks about the wave and the particle. And we can think of the wave is our soul and our energy that's progressing through life. And the particles that are the parts that we observe. It's our moments of time that we are living. It is the now. So we're this energy that's moving forward, and each moment is here's a now, here's a now, here's a now. And so I like that part of it. I like the part that talks about the strange entanglement, quantum entanglement that different particles have, that they're connected, that even if they're far away, what happens to one seems to happen to the other. And that spin on one then affects the spin on the other. I'm thinking that's kind of cool. And that's also like a scientific way that helps us realize that we're all connected, right? So if little molecules or atoms or subatomic particles are connected and have some consciousness that scientists can't quite explain yet, because it's at such a teeny tiny level, right? And I think consciousness in itself is kind of hard to quantify from a scientific point of view. But we know that there is a consciousness because there seems to be a connection. Well, if it's present and demonstrable at that level of being, that teeny tiny bit, can you imagine how much more is possible for our connection as spirits and beings and people that are choosing, consciously intending to want to connect and share our light and share our love and be kind and grow together and reconnect with that sense of love and oneness and peace that's possible. So I do like the scientific part of it quite a bit. What I wanted to also think about is partly, when we talked about the spiritual gifts before, I know some people are like, I don't really have a spiritual gift. It's like, yes, you do. We all do. We all have amazing intuitions. We're just maybe not all paying attention or trained to know how to recognize how it communicates with us, and or how we process things so that we get the messages and know how to work. And how do I know we all have intuition? Because we're here. Our ancestors, DNA, genetic, literal ancestors, were the ones who had the intuition to know which cave had the saber-toothed tiger in it that would kill everybody and which cave was safe. They knew which mushrooms were poisonous, which ones they could eat, what water was toxic, what water was safe, right? Those shamans, those medicine men and women, those people that used their intuition were the ones that survived. The ones that didn't have the intuition got ate by the bear or the tiger, or died from poisoning, or drowned in the toxic water, or whatnot, right? Those are the ones that didn't survive. So their gene pool didn't keep coming down to us. So we are the genetic DNA result of all these generations of people that use their intuition to survive and thrive and come to community. So we know we have that in our DNA. It's part of our birthright. It's part of our genetic engineering. I don't care if you talk to the most scientific, business-oriented person out there, they will tell you they have had a gut feeling. They might not call it intuition. They'll say, oh yeah, I had this gut feeling, or I just knew. What do you think that just knowing is? That's your intuition. So they don't use the same vocabulary. It doesn't mean they're not having similar experiences, that they're not having those intuitive moments. And remember, the true definition of intuition is not this woo-woo, airy-fairy, touchy-feely thing. It is the coherence between your intellect, your mind, your feelings of your heart, and the knowings of your gut. It is the team, the synchrony, the coherence between these parts of yourself that empower you to make the decisions that are the intuitive force that helps you be successful, to help you not only survive, but to thrive in your life and to make informed decisions and to take actions that are in alignment with your soul's purpose. And when you think about why should I care about what's my soul's purpose? I don't know if you ever ask yourself that, but I asked myself that. I'm like, well, if you're going to teach this, you should probably figure out why. Why should anybody care about that? Well, from what I know and understand, if you're not living according to your soul's purpose, there's going to be this feeling of unrest, or there's like this thing you just can't put your finger on, that, I feel like there's something else I should be doing, or something else that's calling me. And, I just don't know what it is, right? That lack of ability to feel at rest, or this compulsion to go and do and go and do and like seek this out and try this and try this and try this. It's like, I know I haven't found it yet, so I just got to go balls to the walls until I find out whatever it is, right? That finally goes click or ding, I got it, right? It's that part of you that when you decided to be born and come into this flesh that we're in and into this world, especially during this time that we're all born and living in this age, there's some purpose to it. There was some reason. And the reason could be anything from, I just want to have fun. I want to go on that ride and that ride and that ride, and I don't care about the rest. Or it might be, I'm coming to serve because, boy, it's going to be a roller coaster time and they're going to need people to help. Or it might be, wow, this is going to be a really interesting time in history, and I kind of want to be here to observe and witness. So you can have as active or passive a role as your soul wants or needs, but it's beneficial to know, what is that role? Why are you here? What is it you're meant to be doing? How can you have more peace and joy and love and light in your life? Sometimes that key of what is your soul purpose will help direct you so that you know even more what you need in order to sink into that vibration and get there. The other reason that it's beneficial to know what your soul's purpose is when you think about, does my life matter? Or how does my life matter? Or how can I make sure my life matters? And that leads us into questions of things like legacy. So for some people, their legacy is their kids, right? And for some, it might be their products or creations, their books, their artwork, their songs, their inventions, if they're people that are inventors that are making patents, their scientific discoveries or medical discoveries and advancements that have helped people in the world. So legacies can be everything from the smallest love that you've exchanged with a cat, a dog, a loved one, a friend, a family member, a stranger, right? It can be that I made a difference in that being's life. I added a little light. I added some love. I made a connection. Okay, had a positive impact. It could be anything from that all the way to the people that we honor with the Pulitzer Prizes and oh no, that's not Pulitzer. What am I thinking of? Okay. It's the one where, it could be for peace. Okay, people help me there. Somebody put in what I'm thinking of. It's one of those Nobel. Thank you. A Nobel Prize winner, right? Somebody that made such an impact on the world that they actually got a Nobel Prize, whether it was for diplomacy or for science or mathematics or for art or for you name it, right? There's a whole bunch of different categories. So most of us probably are affecting more than just the lives of our cats and dogs and a couple people. And we're probably, I don't know personally, too many Nobel Peace Prize winners or Nobel Prize winners, right? We're probably somewhere along the spectrum of that here to there. What kind of impact do you want to have? What kind of legacy do you want to leave? For each of us, there's no judgment. There's no like, oh, that's not a big enough goal, or, oh, you got to do better. No, it's whatever your soul wanted to create in this lifetime. You can be at peace when you know, like, okay, been there, done that, got it done. Check, good. Little bonus credit. Okay, what else can I do? Right? But living up to that soul purpose can give you that sense of peace and satisfaction, and take some of the frenetic, frantic, almost compulsion we have to do and be more, to get more, to do more and go more. And it's like, wait, stop. Let's be more effective and efficient, and let's try to streamline things as much as we can so that we are doing the things that bring us closer and to better alignment with our soul's purpose and the best possible version of ourselves that we want to be. And that's what we want to be, not what somebody else wants us to be, what we want to be. And so maybe that's even, roll the tape back a little bit more. Maybe that's really the first step that we have to take, is what or who do you want to be? And again, there's no judgment. There's no like, oh, that's not ambitious enough. Says who? Your soul is here for a ride. You are in the Disneyland of life. What rides do you want to go on? Maybe you don't want to go on any rides. Maybe you want to sit on a park bench with an ice cream cone or a glass of lemonade and watch the kids and the joy on their faces and hear their laughter and hear their squeals as they see and meet Mickey, or they meet Princess Elsa for the first time, right? And maybe that's what you want. Or maybe you do want to go on every single ride. Or maybe you want to be somebody who works at the amusement park and takes care of the rides to help the other people have the experiences. There is no right and wrong here, guys, when it comes to spirit. There is no judgment. You are your own judge of what you want for you in your life, what makes your soul feel content, and what will help you create a sense of legacy and direction for your life as you go forward. So I think it's important to think about that a little bit. And I know how hard it can be with all the distractions going on in the world around us today. It's hard to even think about yourself sometimes with all of the demands being placed on you from your work, from your community, from your friends, from your family, from yourself, right? With all the things on the checklist, the to-do list that never seems to get any shorter, right? It's like, check, 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 got it done. Wait a minute, there's 10 more things. When did those go on the list? I'm like, oh my God. I laughed. Somebody was telling me they were bored the other day, and I looked at them and I was like, how is that even possible? How is it possible to be bored? I cannot fathom that in this world. There are so many options of things to do and possibilities and people to know and places to go and things to try. It's like, yeah, that's just not me. But there are times I actually would love to be bored. And I think I'd be like, oh, it would be so nice just to be bored for a short period of time and just kind of not have that never ending to-do list. Right. But part of what drives me, part of what drives my soul is the desire to help as many people as I can. I've shared with y'all before. I always thought I was going to have a big family and have lots of kids, and it just never happened for me. By the time I got married, it was a little later in life, and I could have, but my husband was in a position where he couldn't. And then by the time we did some medical things to address that, it was just too late. And so I was like, oh man, I always wanted to be a mom. I always wanted to have that kind of impact and legacy and raise somebody. And instead, what I realized is my impact is all the people whose lives I touch by the services that I offer, by the information that I share, by even just the attitude that I have sometimes, because I'm one of those people, they may call me Pollyanna, but it's like, I'd rather be an optimist and always look for the best in a situation and be resilient. And yeah, there's been times life sucks, that there's been terrible tragedies and challenges and yucky stuff. And we shared this before. I've been in the quicksand a lot, guys, and I figured out how to get out. And now I love that part of my legacy is teaching other people how to get out of the quicksand. It's like, all right, you don't have to make the same pitfalls that I did. Let me share with you a little bit so you don't have to make those same mistakes, right? So legacy for me is about impact and positively impacting the lives of others, which is why I am so thrilled to have this podcast and to have this whole social media option open to me now. I didn't have that when I first started my career years ago as a life coach. There was no such thing as this. The internet was barely an infant at those days. You'd be lucky, anyway, it was very different than now. Now it's such a blessing because I can reach people. Like even just tonight, we have friends over in the UK as well as in Australia and in the US, like all over the world, able to listen. And maybe, just maybe, by listening to this podcast and other ones that are out there, your lives will be a little bit brighter. A seed will be planted. You'll feel a little uplifted. You'll get a thought that goes like, oh yeah, let me try that thing that crazy lady in Wisconsin was talking about. And you try something and you're like, whoa, that worked. I had this fun experience. I learned how to open up to spirit in a deeper way. I figured out part of my purpose. And now things are clearer when I have to make decisions in my life. I feel more content and peaceful and joy in my life, even though what's happening in the world around me seems really scary. It's not dragging me down. I know my role. I know my place. And part of it is the homework that I give y'all. And I try to live myself each week. What is that? Be kind to yourself and to others. Be unconditionally forgiving of yourself and others. Be unconditionally loving of yourself and others. Always do right or the best you can in every situation to shine your light and share your love and help others and make a positive impact. Become the best possible version of yourself and gather up all of those experiences and pieces of the puzzle that your soul wants you to in this adventure of this lifetime for you and for us. That's what I hope and hold is true for everybody. And if I can spread that word to people all over the world through this little podcast, that just tickles me. Because over the 45 years that I've been in service and helping people with my spiritual gifts, I probably have helped maybe 10,000 people, roughly, through different classes and sessions and readings and workshops and whatnot. But the potential to reach millions is out there, and to have that pebble in the pond effect. So maybe 1,000 people will watch this podcast or listen to this podcast. But how many people will then each of you 1,000 people touch? And how that can go on and go on and go on. So to me, this is such a joyful way for me to live part of my purpose, which is to share and to bring information through and to answer your questions if you have it to the best of my ability. But mostly for me to be a spiritual cheerleader for you all, to figure it out, to help you get one step closer in the direction of manifesting the amazing life you want to create for you and your family, for you to become the best possible version of yourself so that you can fulfill the creation that you were born to fulfill, whatever that is. And again, only you know that, and there is no good or bad, and it's not compare it to your neighbor. It's not like saying, well, I run hurdles, but I'm not a gold medalist, so why bother? No, if you are called to run hurdles and that brings you joy and you love that feeling and that exhilaration you get as you go through that race, you go through that race. And you don't compare yourself to the gold medal person other than to maybe say like, wow, they must be really good because they're running it a whole like 5 seconds faster than I am or whatever it is, right? And you can give them the, you go girl or you go guy, but it doesn't diminish us if we have different goals, if our souls have different longings than our neighbor. So remember, guys, do the best you can. We're all going to have oopses. We're not perfect. We came here to grow, to learn, to be here for each other. So have the best possible week you can. Create the moments that are most joyful and filled with love that you can. Be kind to yourself and one another. And please do join us again for Spiritual Street Talk with Althea. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. I hope you all had a good time and maybe learned a little something or felt inspired to go try something. Feel free to reach out to me. All my contact information's below. You can email me directly from my website. If you have any questions, please do reach out. And in the meantime, y'all have a wonderful, blessed week. And we'll see you again on, June. Let's see, what's today? Today is the 5th. Oh, next Thursday is my birthday, June 12th. I will be on air and I will do a show for my birthday because that'll be a present to me to be able to share my gifts with y'all. All right. So I'll see you when I'm a whole year older next week. Take care, y'all. Have a beautiful week. Love you. Bye. Let's see. I need to do an outro video. Okay. And y'all remember, I'm still trying to learn all this background stuff. So here we go. Let's get something to say goodbye. Bye.
Coming to a YouTube channel near you.